everyone, Ariam here, and since it is now officially spooky season, welcome to a very scary episode of Draw and Discuss. Nature is beautiful, but it's also brutal, creepy, and sometimes scary, so there was a wide variety of topics I could have potentially picked for this video. Everything from zombie ants controlled by a fungus to any parasite, take your pick, and even diseases like chronic wasting disease and rabies. All scary. So what did I settle on? Today, let's talk about herbivores that might eat meat. Now, that might sound a little confusing. Well, Ariam, that's just an omnivore, silly. Not quite what I'm talking about. There's not really a name specifically for the phenomenon I'm going to discuss today, but herbivores eating meat is about as close as I can get. What I'm not talking about are animals like pigs, domestic or wild, where they generally eat plant matter like roots and tubers and whatever they're fed on a farm, but they can and will eat meat. And there are terrifying instances where wild boars might even eat a baby cow or goat as it's being born. Brutal. But everyone kind of knows that about pigs, and other omnivores are omnivores. They eat both plants and meat. So what am I talking about? Well, I mean mostly obligate herbivores that decide to add some spice to their diet. But first, what does obligate mean? Obligate means obligated, essentially, something that is necessary for this animal to survive. With diets, it's more often talked about in terms of obligate carnivores, animals that have to eat meat to get the nutrients that they need, and they really do not eat plant matter or don't even have the systems required to digest plant matter. For example, cats of all kind, wild and domestic, are obligate carnivores. They get everything they need from meat-based products, which is why it is animal abuse if you try to feed your cat a vegan-based cat food. They are not built to live on plant matter. They need meat and the proteins within it, and any plants that cats might ingest, like catmint or catgrass, generally are not done for nutritional value, but maybe to soothe an upset stomach. Polar bears are generally also considered obligate carnivores because they get everything they need from meat, and if they had the choice, they would be eating only meat all the time. Sometimes in the thin months, during the summer when polar bears are landlocked because the ice floes have melted, they can't eat seals like they normally would, and if there aren't whale carcasses or something similar available, they may need to eat seaweed or grasses, things like that, just to stay alive. This is an act of desperation rather than a chosen variety diet, so polar bears are also generally considered obligate carnivores. However, you don't hear the word obligate herbivore thrown around nearly as much, and that's because sometimes herbivores are a little bit more flexible in what they decide to eat, even if it doesn't necessarily get into their diet often enough that they would be considered omnivores. But you might be thinking, no, I know of a few animals that are only herbivorous. Deer, goats, cows, horses, those things only eat plants. Well, I hate to burst your bubble, but that's exactly the topic of today's Draw and Discuss. Being a carnivore versus an herbivore versus an omnivore was an evolutionary trade-off between species. If you're a carnivore, you have to work really, really hard to get your food. You're at a higher chance of starvation, but once you get that food, it's very high in energy. As an herbivore, you're generally, depending on your ecosystem, surrounded by food at all times. But it's pretty low energy and low in nutritional value, so you have to eat a lot of it. Extracting nutrients from plant matter is quite a chore as well. That's why most large herbivores have such huge bellies with long digestive systems, and oftentimes multiple stomachs, where they regurgitate the food, chew it again, and digest it again, because if you're just letting some grass pass through once, you are not going to be extracting enough energy that you need to survive. It's also difficult to get certain vital nutrients and minerals, especially from plants and plant matter. Salt is one of those big things. That's why salt licks are used to attract deer to hunting spots and so on, because you can't really get the necessary amount of salts from just chewing on plants all day. Other minerals that are very, very necessary for an organism's survival but are hard to extract from plant matter include calcium, phosphorus, and nitrogen. For some species, these minerals can be found in natural deposits like heavily mineralized clay that they can drink up as mud. For some species, there are plants that are richer in some of these minerals, and the animals will travel to different areas, even putting themselves in danger to find these plants. But even these options aren't perfect. It could mean a lot of traveling, and you might be out in the open and exposed looking for these minerals that you need to survive. So what's another option that's pretty convenient? Other animals. Now you might be thinking, no, you just said that carnivores have to exert a huge amount of energy to get their food. Yes, that's true. The difference here is that for the most part, when herbivores turn meat eater, they're eating meat that is already dead. More specifically, they're often ignoring the meat and going straight for those sweet, sweet bones. Bones are, of course, very high in calcium, but they are also stocked with a ton of other minerals as well. If you've ever found a bone or an antler in the forest, chances are it probably had some chew marks on it. Usually this is from rodents like squirrels or rats or mice, but other animals have been known to chew on bones as well. Deer, who usually eat only plants, have been found scavenging roadkill and have even been found chewing on human remains found at a crime scene deep within the woods. But bones aren't the only things in the body that offer nutritional value. Blood is high in iron, salt, and other minerals, and a lot of species that aren't blood drinkers will, at times, drink blood. In fact, some of the beautiful butterfly species you may know and love will happily slurp up some blood or even sweat in tears given the opportunity because of the salts and minerals found within them that they can't easily access from their main sources of food. So you might be thinking, okay, so maybe some herbivores chew on some long dead bones and the like in order to get some calcium. Well, that's no big deal. It's not like they're hunting anything. Or are they? Generally, yes. A moose is not going to chase you through the woods to eat you. It is going to chase you through the woods to stomp you to death, but most likely it's not going to eat you. But if an herbivore is very starved of certain nutrients, or if it happens upon a very vulnerable, perhaps near-death animal, it might just go a little farther than you'd think. Hopefully I can find the picture for you guys here, but there was at least one sighting in Australia of a cow slurping down a snake like a spaghetti noodle, most likely because their feed was low in phosphorus, and apparently the snake was the easiest source of phosphorus for that cow. Additionally, tortoises in the wild, especially those on islands, which generally only eat plants, have been known to hunt down fledgling seabirds that fall out of their nest and can't fly away. They will literally chase them down, although I suppose with a tortoise it's not really chasing, but it will find that hatchling and eat it alive, because that's a pretty convenient little pack of nutrients right there. I've even seen a video of someone who couldn't have known any better trying to show their horse a freshly hatched baby chick. So cute. Aw, look, the horse is seeing a baby chicken. And then the horse proceeded to eat the chick out of this person's hand as everyone screamed in horror. So what's the point here? How am I possibly going to tie this into dinosaurs? Well, given that modern-day herbivores across a variety of species and genus will eat animal matter if it is available and if they are nutrient deficient, Wouldn't the same likely have been true of dinosaurs? I am far from the first person to think of this, so there's plenty of theories and discussion threads and papers about this topic, but it is believed that reasonably it could be expected that herbivorous dinosaurs may have occasionally turned toward scavenging carcasses, bones, and maybe even helpless animals. Being able to turn towards eating something that you normally wouldn't, especially during hard times like a drought or some sort of natural disaster, would have helped a species be more flexible and able to survive in different conditions. So it makes sense that this is a trait that could have occurred in dinosaurs as it occurs in other herbivores today. As a rule, from what I've seen, it's kind of unanimously agreed that if any herbivore from dinosaur times were going to do this, it's going to be ceratopsians. They have that crushing beak that could do a lot more than just cut through plant matter, and this isn't scientific in any way, but ceratopsians just sort of have that vibe that they will eat whatever they want. So, what I have been tirelessly drawing this whole time is a Diabloceratops, or devil-horned face, which I have already drawn, but this time, in its jaws you can find a hatchling Lythronax. And this is a type of theropod that I haven't done a video on yet, but I will. But this theropod, if it had reached adulthood, may have eaten Diabloceratops. But clearly the tables have turned today. So let me know what you think down below. Do you think herbivorous dinosaurs could have turned towards animal matter in order to supplement their diet? Do you think any certain species would have been more likely to do so than others? And do you think this Diabloceratops found an already dead chick? Or do you think it came across a nest that was unfortunately unguarded? All of this is very spooky, perfect for October, but just remember, if you're out in the woods, it's very likely that a deer won't try to chew on you unless you're already dead. And that should remind you to smile.